Hello and welcome to the Deercast podcast with Tom and Harry. Hello everyone and welcome to the Deercast. Today we've got a really exciting episode. It's Tom and Harry here and we are joined by Rupert Blackwall from R J Blackwall Gunmakers. Rupert, owner proprietor of R J Blackwall, as the name suggests, and also keen hunter, shooter, fisherman as well, Rupert, or not quite?
Yeah, I'm more of a leisurely fisherman. Good weather. I'm not a diehard.
Excellent. Amazing. And you're very lucky today, listeners, because as some of you will know, we asked all of you on Instagram if you had any questions for Rupert. And I think we've got sort of 10, 15 questions have come through. So we're going to let Rupert quickly introduce himself, tell us how he got into shooting, how he got into gun making, etc. We're then going to dive into some of the questions and just see where the podcast goes from there. And for those of you loyal fans that love Bobby's bits, don't worry, that will feature at the end. So Rupert, do you want to kick off from there and tell us a bit about you?
So I started I got into shooting basically. It was a bit of through my uncle, and my dad did a bit of shooting. We used to have some clay traps at home, and we used to sort of throw a few clays over the hedges and do a bit of that. We used to do some pigeon shooting as a kid. I was fortunate enough to live in an area where literally I could walk out the back door and sort of across into the fields and just do that, which was really, I was really lucky to have that opportunity. But my passion sort of grew from there, to my first days pheasant shooting, sort of over towards sort of Bourton on the Water direction, where and that's where I started sort of doing my first game days, was over that direction, and then from there on it just sort of expanded. And the gun making aspect, I basically mixed engineering and my sport, and the equation was gun making. And I did like A-level engineering, and then I basically from there on I wrote for apprenticeships across the country, and I got one at E.J. Churchill's. And to be luckily for me, it was in a more rural location where a lot of the sort of major gun makers are sort of city based, which, to be quite frank, probably wouldn't have really been my cup of tea. But being at West Wickham Park, I had a lovely surroundings and a fairly sort of chilled, easygoing crowd of people to work with, which sort of kicked me on really.
Yeah. So geographically wise, born and raised in sort of Oxfordshire, Gloucestershire, then moved to Bucks for E.J. Churchill, and then back to Oxfordshire. So you've done the best counties.
I went miles.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically, Gloucestershire. Just on the sort of Oxfordshire, Gloucestershire, actually Gloucestershire postcode, if I was being exact. Chastleton is where I'm from originally, just at the edge of Chastleton village, just between sort of Morton Marsh and Chipping Norton. And and then went to Buckinghamshire, which I didn't go miles, but still
needed your passport.
Yeah, just to get out the county.
And how long were you with was it Lee in the gun room still there at E.J. Churchill at the time?
Yeah, so I was with them from I'm trying to work this out, it was about 99 to 2009, so it was on that sort of point there. And basically it was just about 10 years. It was maybe just a touch under, but it was there about 10 years. So, and then I came here, I got to a stage where E.J. Churchill's changed quite dramatically with the gun making aspect. I also did a business management degree, and I just wanted to go and do my own thing really. So I came back to Oxfordshire, which seemed to make sense because I had a foothold in the shooting community, and sort of gradually set up a business from here. So
you've gone from sort of West Wickham Park to Great Chew. Is it Great Chew Estate you're on?
Cornbury.
Or is it? Oh, it's Cornbury Park, isn't it?
Yeah, Cornbury Park. So we're just the edge of Charlbury. Charlbury, funny enough, is over the years has had notorious gun shops actually. So he's always had a gun shop or two in Charlbury for about 35 years. So it sort of seemed to make sense really. People always thought of that town as having a gun shop if you're in the shooting. industry. In fact, I bought my first gun from the guy in Charlbury, a guy called John Robson, which was many years ago. So it's a bit random how I ended up back here. It wasn't wasn't the main plan, but it's just the way it happened.
And for those of you that have never been to the R J Blackwall store, it is a beautiful. It's in a Cotswold stone building, isn't it, Rupert? And I was there the other day, and I think you were saying you're sort of specialising more so in rifles now, perhaps, than shotguns, or is that fair?
Yeah, our passion here between like Matt and myself are rifles, but shotguns we actually probably do more work on shotguns, especially fittings and gun fittings and customization of stocks. We do a lot of that sort of work, setting people's hands and grips and reshaping stocks to suit them. And yeah, I mean that's our sort of probably our bread and butter work here, and we enjoy that actually quite immensely. You get to take a standard off the shelf gun like a WLL, and then you basically sort of reshape it, make it a Prince of Wales grip, put a lovely ebony cap on there, extended guards or anything like that. You can do any of that sort of stuff, and that's the sort of work we've been having a lot of fun with recently. And it's something that also the whole marketplace can enjoy that as well. So it's not just to one set of one customer group.
Yeah. Are you seeing a sort of increase in the sort of people looking for rifles more than shotguns now with the kind of deer stalking and?
Yeah, when I first started here, there was certainly a massive boom in people coming into stalking, and that boom definitely was very busy leading up to COVID. Obviously, through COVID with various police forces closing down and firearms applications being sort of snagged up, that it has slowed up a little bit. But saying that, we are seeing a little bit more momentum again. I just think it's a bit of time. It's going to take a couple of years for for everybody to catch up still. So, but yeah, we're seeing definitely seeing more movement with rifles.
Yeah. And what are people buying if they're coming in for a rifle? Are they buying I don't know, a Blaser in 3006, or are they buying a CZ in 22? Or
we funny enough, I don't know about other shops, but we actually sell very few 22s around here. If we the smaller calibers around here seem to be like 178 HMR. We've got quite a following for like 22-250, and I think you get little pockets of areas where certain calibers, everybody sort of, oh, that's a great caliber, and they're like sheep, and they all follow each other, and you get a bit of a crowd of guys on one caliber, more so than another area. But 22-250, we're doing quite well. We're seeing a lot of 270s going out the door again now. And 3006s, we've always sold loads of 3006s. It's been a caliber in here. We've always had a lot of guys that do a lot of boar shooting and hunting abroad for boar, and a 3006 is just like, well, what you can't do with a 3006. I mean, there's not a lot really. It's so versatile. Yeah. You can get ammo anywhere, and it's got a big variety of bullet weights, ranging from literally from 100 grain up to 220. So it is flexible. But 270 with the copper thing, we're in fairly, I could say, older country in the sense of Gloucestershire is Gloucestershire. A lot of guys who might have gone stalking on the hill, and 270 was that sort of that favoured caliber on the hill. And the thing with it is it handles those slightly heavier bullet weights. So going to copper and even tin ammunition, it deals with those bullet weights very successfully. And also it's a caliber that if you're travelling up to Scotland or all over the country, there's usually somebody who's got some 270 kicking about.
Yeah.
So,
and what's your rifle of choice? As in, what's your stalking rifle and caliber?
Oh God, I mean,
what's in your cabinet?
What's in my cabinet at the
moment?
What
do you pick up when you go out?
Generally, it's funny enough, it's a Blaser 6555, like a Swede, and I've been a bit lazy really. I've had it for a number of years, and there's always other calibers you always fancy having a play with, but it's like I've just got used to it over the years, and for what I want to do locally, it seems to do the job pretty well. And I've always had generally some bigger kit in the cabinet over the years. In fact, I've just actually had a bit of a change around on my license from had a 300, had a 9.3 62 for a number of years, and used to mainly use that for pigs abroad. I shot a 300 Win Mag for ages, but I've decided just to try and keep it a little bit more, just simplify it, because I've got so many of my friends into 30.06s. I've decided to join the 30.06 club and got myself a 30.06 on my ticket just recently. So
very nice. I'm disappointed that you've not said 308, because that's the love of my life. I managed to convert Harry to a 308 as well. I thought you were gonna I don't know, give me the victory I needed.
It's a bit boring, isn't it?
Oh, Rupert!
No, I like 308. To be honest, my first rifle was we all had a first rifle. My first rifle was a 250 quid Parker Hale Safari, I think, or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but anyway, I ended up like reshaping the stock and putting a butter knife bolt handle on it and doing a load of other stuff to it. And I had, that was my first rifle, was a 308, and it worked fine. My housemate at the time, Mark Wildsmith, when I was living at Churchill's, he had a 243 and a 308, so I ended up joining the 308 club effectively.
Yeah.
But Mike, the reason why I go for 30.06 over 308 these days is the ammo costs are irrelevant. There's nothing in it between 30.06 ammunition. Some gun shops seem to like to jack the price up of ammo on 30.06, but generally, as a rough rule, it's virtually identical in costings, and you get a little bit more bang for your buck. And just generally for sort of running these copper rounds, it gives you a little bit more velocity.
Yeah.
So we're still waiting for more slight, ideally, and it's even 308. I'd love to see some more like 120, 130 grain factory copper rounds. That's the sort of stuff that I think suits those sort of calibers quite well in that bullet weight, and it'll kill most things in the UK and get the velocity up.
So as a gun maker, gunsmith,
yeah,
is the temptation with your own guns to always tinker? Because I can imagine, like you just said, you put a butter knife handle on your first 308, you reshape the stock. Is that always a temptation because you've got the skills and the know-how to?
I'll be honest, that's why I bought two factory rifles that I'm just, I've done a bit of tinkering. I've got my 9.3, which I'm just going to convert back to a 30.06, is a Blaser again. It's a sort of a sporterized stock. It's a wooden one. They didn't make many of them, to be honest. And it's got dents and donks and dinks in it. I'm just leaving it be because I quite like it with the dents and donks in it. It sort of tells a bit of a story. You can always have almost a two shinier rifle, and it doesn't tell any story, if you know what I mean. Especially with wooden rifles, it's something quite nice with a few marks in it every so often.
Yeah.
And it shows that you're actually using it. I certainly need to use them a bit more regularly. I think the last few years it's been a bit grim, to be fair, but that's the disadvantage of having a young family as well to deal with. So, put something on the back foot fractionally.
And in terms of your sort of deer stalking and where you are you doing a lot of kind of row stalking, or what is your sort of bag?
No, so I'm just part of a local syndicate now, and that syndicate, we've mainly got fallow there. There are roe and muntjac. The fallow is the main aspect that seems to be hitting hard on this ground. The roe, there's some really nice roe actually, but we just, again, it's a fairly new syndicate. So what we're trying to do is just, like any syndicate wants to do, you want to try and cull a bit of the crap and then just allow things to mature a little bit. We're at a stage where there's a few nice mature bucks kicking about, but there's also a lot of bucks coming up through, which are going to be really nice. So we're sort of in that sort of middle of the row area at the moment, where we just need to let it. Sorry, the pun.
I didn't know whether you'd done that on purpose or not.
No.
Very clever.
Well, I hadn't actually, but I sort of clocked there was a pun in there, so I thought I'd throw it in. So we haven't done a huge. We left the row. Muntjac, there's a plenty quantity of muntjac there. So actually, as we're probably always seeing across in certain parts of the Chinese water deer creeping further into Oxfordshire. So, and from what I've heard on local reports, I haven't seen any yet, but they've crossed the motorway. which is exciting. So
someone's had a van out, have they?
Probably. Yeah.
Or built a bridge or something silly, yeah. Or a tunnel.
They're saying that actually, you don't. When I was at West Wickham, they're where the shooting ground is, and I used to do quite a bit of foxing years ago, and vermin control around West Wickham when I was younger. And there's a motorway bridge under the M40, and the deer used to use that as a regular corridor. So,
Really?
Yeah, they did. I used to see fat, because we never really had fallow on our side, but occasionally you would get some fallow. But the roe and the muntjac used to use that all the time. You see regular tracks underneath that bridge. So if they can find a sensible corridor, you always see muntjac grazing on the side of the motorway. When you go up the M40 and you go through the cutout, there's always a few kicking around, usually, if you keep your eyes peeled.
So what out of everything you've hunted of the UK deer species, which would be your favourite? If someone said you've got one last stalk and that's it, what species would you choose to go and do it on?
Oh, that's tricky. See, I think stags rutting, the sound of it is probably the most hair-raising bit for me. It'd have to be rutting stags.
Yeah.
Actually, that's just for sound. I could go through a few other reasons. I think Seeker are very exciting because they're so sharp. Seeker and forestry, that squeal, that whistle they do is just immense. And when you're stalking and they're so on the ball, Seeker are. But locally, I've probably shot more muntjac than anything else. So muntjac is, but you always have those romantic ideas of what you'd like to shoot a muntjac with, and that'd be like a 2-2 Hornet single shot or something like that. But we can't do that, unfortunately.
Tom's just gone out and bought himself a very nice kit plough. And he's living that sort of life, getting out after a muntjac roebuck, kind of polishing it when he gets home. Kind of thing.
Rupert knows because he was one of the only people who stood up for me on Instagram, I think it was, because I posted a picture of it. It was a Merkel K3, and it was Al Gabriel, who's one of our last podcast guests, sort of commented on it saying, I don't think it's very ethical. And I think you were one of the only people who stood up for me, Rupert, and said, no, totally ethical, plenty of time to reload, beautiful, lovely, accurate rifles. So
yeah,
thank you very much.
No, well, look, some people don't like the. I wouldn't go and advise a novice stalker to go and buy a kit plough as a first rifle. It's not the tool. It's not for the tool for them. But for those who've done a bit, and is a comfortable rifle shot. Look, there's always going to be an issue out there at some stage. There's always going to be that deer that you might have a good shot on it. You might clip a branch and it just pulls around, fraction that you didn't see. There's always something. But generally, the more experienced you are, the better you can read deer and how their reactions are and what they're going to do. And it's to be quite frank, unless you're shooting running wild boar, it's not often where you end up sort of having a follow-up shot within about a second of the first shot. Usually the animal runs, goes 50, 100 yards. You can usually holler it down generally, or it will stop at the edge of a wood or look around at you, and then you can often sneak another round into it if it's safe. So it's not always, or if it's a straight run, it's going to thick cover. You're never going to get a shot off anyway.
No, and I've got to thank you as well, because the Fryer and Devic, hopefully I've said that right, Moderator.
Yeah, Fryer and Devic, yeah.
Moderator you sold me to go on the end of it is absolutely beautiful. Tames the recoil just enough, but doesn't spoil the kind of balance or look of the rifle. It's amazing. So thank you.
They're an awesome woodland rifle because they're so, you got to think like a normal rifle is, you got an action that's like about sort of, possibly the best part of 6 inches long. So
yeah,
12 to 15 centimeters if you're into metric. That they are and when you're woodland stalking or something like that, you can have a barrel that's like 22 inches and it's below your shoulder. It's so short, and it's literally the mod poking above your shoulder. So, and they weigh like, most people don't realise, but they weigh like 5 pounds, just over 5 pounds. And then you got, time you've kitted it up, but it might be 7.5 pounds. But it's not I weighed my blaster the other day just as a bit of a comparison, and my thumbhole blaster, that's an 11-pound rifle, basically with the scope and the mod, and that's with a titanium. It's a heavy bit of kit.
Yeah.
And if you're having to lug that for a long period of time, you start to notice it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. We were playing with yours the other day, and just sort of couldn't quite believe that the barrel was the length it was.
Yeah.
It felt like a sort of illegal barrel length. Like it was
But it's
so
not.
unbelievably short.
It's 20 inches.
Yeah. But like you say, that you don't have the action, do you? So you haven't got that length in there. So it just feels so short and so light, like a 410 almost.
It's what I've used on all of the roebuck I've shot so far this season, and it's almost made me fall in love with stalking again, because it's so quick, it's so light. There was one of the roebuck I've shot literally was freehand with the Kiplauf, because the roebuck was only 50 meters away, so it was just able to really quickly up, bang, job done. Whereas my normal rifle, it's a Tikka and a big heavy thumbhole stock, I would never have managed that. And I don't know, there's just
it makes it feel natural again.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a certain purist aspect to it.
Yeah.
I got a guy I know in Croatia called Bobo. He uses a 300 Blaser Kiplauf, fairly punchy. And I tell you what, he has smashed more boar up. It will kill more boar than most guys with a bolt rifle with that single shot. He's an absolute machine with it.
What did you say his name was?
Bobo.
Amazing name.
That's great.
Fantastic. Yeah, so he's got but he's always carried a single shot, and on driven hunts.
Yeah.
Get away with it.
Well, exactly. A lot of people.
Again, it comes down to experience of reading animals. It's a real crucial factor.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, a lot of people say that it makes you focus more on the shots and take your time. And you've only got one, you haven't got that mentality of, I've got 5 in the magazine. You're really sort of focusing in.
Yeah.
But I mean, quite a lot of people normally comment on your rifle in particular is the fact that you've actually put a moderator on a kit.
I know. I feel like I've committed
a view on this, Rupert. Or?
Yeah, look, I get it, but I think we also live in a country that's sort of getting more and more populated. And at the same time, look, it'd be lovely to be super pure. If there's about 50% less people in the UK, yes, so you get away with it more. But we live in a nation where there's more and more people that are more cut off to the countryside. They might live there, but they have no understanding of it. And I think what's the point sometimes in trying to create an issue with a shot where you do get it very occasionally. You get somebody calls the police over hearing a shot, and actually if you had a mod on the you wouldn't have even known what it was. So
yeah, no, absolutely, it's an essential bit of kit, isn't it? And actually, I think after seeing Tom's one, I think I'm definitely going to be in the market for the same sort of thing. I've just bought a Sauer 404 and 308, and it is bloody loud, and I haven't yet got a mod for it. So I think that's going to be. I think I'll be coming and paying you a visit.
Yeah. I've made that introduction, Rupert. So I hope next time I pop in, I get some sort of introducer's fee or something. A free.
Yeah, well, I know
free cleaning patch.
I know what your estate agents are like.
I know exactly. Right.
Should I said that? That's going to make you lose a load of hits. That is.
Probably. just to be clear, we're not estate agents, but
work for Savills, close enough.
Not me.
So on that note, Rupert, right. So a number of people didn't text in, they Instagrammed in some questions for you. So we've got quite a few here. And this was from they didn't leave their name, but he said, if you could pick one caliber for all British deer species, what would it be and why?
Ooh, God, this is
getting revenge now, Rupert.
This is revenge, is it?
Yeah.
Revenge. One caliber for just British deer, all species, deer or including boar.
No, it says all British deer species. Right. So you can't get out easy on that one. Just say 3006 because it would be for boar.
I'll be honest. I would probably stick with the 270.
Would you?
A lot of people. I'm not particularly. I don't find they recoil much. I've shot so many different rifles over the years, to be honest. And my wife shot my 300 Win Mag and didn't really notice too much on the recoil. But once they're moderated up, I think just for simplicity, it's not the most exciting caliber. It's fast, and if most people at the moment are into like shooting 243s and calibers like that, and it's like the sort of next step up from a 243, where you've got that similar sort of velocity with slightly heavier bullets. It sort of does the job, and it's quite easy to shoot. For smaller species, the problem is that's why I've got two calibers in my cabinet. I've got a 6.5 because for muntjac and roe and the smaller species, it doesn't sort of knock them around quite in the same format. But a 270 is probably not the best on the smaller species. But then we're shooting we're going to copper bullets, and copper bullets, don't expand in quite the same format to our traditional more soft nosed bullets. So
yeah,
we're all in a bit of a new learning curve of ammunition at the moment, and we're still very much in the curve.
In that sort of vein, that kind of leads us nicely on to the next question, which I've got from a Mr. Wilson, we'll call him. He says, do you believe that the 243 will become obsolete for larger deer as we move to copper? Now, I'm an absolute 243 fan. I actually bought my first rifle, which was a 243, from you at R J Blackwall about 6 or 7 years ago. So I'd really sort of rue the day it became obsolete. But what do you think with sort of deer legal copper?
The tricky bit with it is that the 243, obviously to get 100 grain bullet, if we're going to go down, I know it's obviously we've got a muzzle energy we need to achieve, but if we're going down to the being pure with actually having 100 grain bullet, this is where the 243 struggles, because if you go down copper, your bullet it's become very much longer, so it's almost starting to look a bit like a sort of a 6.5 type bullet, where it's sort of long, narrow. It's like a dart effectively. Now the problem is most 243s, the throat and the barrel twist is not really designed for that type of bullet shape and length, and this is where the problems are. So I spoke to a few guys that have been spent many hours doing low development and on standard factory rifles with these 100 grain bullets, and struggling like hell to get them to group. The 243 was only really ever designed. It was designed for actually shooting coyotes, and it was designed as a light deer round and a heavy varmint caliber. And the sort of 75, 85 grain is its sort of sweet spot. Now, hoping there might be a bit of flexibility. There's been a bit of chat about it, but maybe there's a bit of flexibility where, the 243, if they bring change row like Scotland has, you could maybe use it as a row, use a 243 for row and muntjac. But I don't know. It's at the moment it's not ideal. We're not seeing anything major coming from the manufacturers. There's no major, solutions I've seen. And I think the reason is because of this problem. Yeah. You could rebarrel your 243 and change the twist and change the throat. That is an option if you've got a rifle you can do that with.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people will be more tempted to trade in potentially for, I
think probably 6.5 Creedmoor's becoming the new 243. And you can once you get into a 6.5, you've then got bullet weight options, quite a few actually. So you can go in lead, the 6.5 can go up to basically 160 grain bullet, just under 159 grain. So you can have 120s and 130 grain bullets without an issue, and 140 grain bullets in copper. So
okay.
Yeah.
This question didn't. I have to apologize. I didn't send it to you in advance. He might be slightly caught off guard by it. Someone texted it through to me, and it's quite topical because Harry and I are both ends of the spectrum here in terms, and this relates to rifle cleaning. Better to over clean or under clean your rifle?
Always over clean.
Okay.
Most of the rifles I've seen here, I'll be honest, have got plenty of the actual rifling is not shot out. Most rifles are knackered through to bad maintenance, and it's primarily a mix of powder residue and primer residue left over after shot. If you can, just at the end of the day, even just put a bore snake, don't be tempted to put oil on it. Just pull it through 2 or 3 times. It's not going to strip the copper out of your rifling, because a phosphorus brush and a bit of nylon is just not going to do that. But it will take a bit of carbon out, and it will take some of the powder and primer residue out. Even if you fire a shot, it is well worth doing it, especially on chromoly barrels. Stainless barrels are a bit more forgiving, but even stainless barrels are not true stainless, so you've got to be aware of that.
Okay, interesting. Because I do the ball, I put
a
ball, I run the ball snake through basically as many times as taking a shot. So I go out and take one shot, I pull the ball snake through once, and Tom does a full, lays out like a sort of operating theatre, gets his gloves on.
I'll run a patch through. It's depending if the rifle's got really wet. If I feel like there's a lot of moisture, I will on my own rifle. I'll go to town to it a bit more, but I don't do it every time. You just clean to the conditions around you. If it's really dusty and crap and dusty, grotty conditions, you maintain your rifle more. If it's wet, you maintain your rifle. But if you've got nice conditions, you can get away. You can be a little bit more lenient. It's just a case of gentle wipe over on the outside, put the bore snake through. I'm trying to give people a cleaning regime that's actually feasible for the majority of people, because at the end of the day, there's no point talking about an immense cleaning regime where actually 90% of them will never even attempt to do it. It's just like, if you just get somebody to encourage us to chuck a bore snake through, it could save you, £2,000 or £3,000 on a rifle. I've seen rifles fire 40 rounds, and I look up them, and it's like I can grow potatoes up there. And it's not due to the quantity of ammunition.
No. And just on that, why not oil a bore snake?
So,
oh, here we go.
Yeah, so
you're about to ruin Harry's world.
Yeah, oil. The main reason for oil is in the old days. So you got to imagine. Do any of you guys do water skiing or ever done any water sports?
Sailing when I was a kid, probably.
No. So I don't know if you've ever been on the back of a boat or towed behind a boat with a water ski or something like that, where you hit water at 30 miles an hour. It's like concrete. And you got to remember, you got to think, well, this bullet is, if you put a line of oil all the way at the inside of your barrel, that bullet, you're just basically making your bore tighter. When that bullet's going up there, the speed it's going up there, it's got to push that out the way. And you can increase your barrel pressure by nearly 20%. And you can also, at the same time, that's where you get accuracy issues. So your first shot, if you soak the inside of your barrel with oil and you fire it, you'll get a puff of smoke out the end. You just increase the pressure of the round by 20%. And then that bullet is not, the likelihood of that actually running true to where you had it zeroed before is fairly unlikely. And we get guys who put too much oil. They get to stage where the magazine is dripping with it. And then that's transferring to the rest of the rounds. And you've got a rifle that doesn't shoot for toffee because there's literally oil everywhere. So the only time I advise to put oil up a rifle barrel is if you're going to put your rifle to rest over, through a particular point of the season where you haven't got anything to store, 2 or 3 months, or you're going away somewhere. By all means, put a patch, put some oil up there. It doesn't do it any harm whatsoever. But remember, when you go out again, take it out.
Interesting.
How quickly are you going to go and re-clean your rifle, Harry, and take that oil out the barrel?
Wash your bore snake. Yeah, try and wash your bore snake, because that will be.
I've never washed it in my whole life. This is
sounds like you need to visit Rupert and buy a new bore snake.
Or buy a new bore snake if it's soaked.
Might as well get a moderator whilst you're there as well.
My bore snake isn't even the right one for my rifle as well. That's
my God. Right.
So the wrong caliber. But it does work, I think.
Moving on.
I'm sweating.
Right. Mr. Batterbury is our next question. He's actually asked two, but I'll ask the first one to begin with, which is, if you could only make one more rifle, what would it be and why? And I'm guessing that's for a customer or yourself, but if someone came in and commissioned you to make a rifle for them, what would it be?
For a customer, or for me? For customer.
Would the answer differ?
Probably.
Okay. Give us both options then.
So if I was going to build a rifle for myself, again, it'd probably actually be a Kiplauf style.
Yes, Rupert.
For me personally, we have actually got I've just got a customer who's actually commissioned me to build one, so we're quite excited about that as a project. That will hopefully be underway, and it's going to be a sort of 18 to 24 month project if it all goes to plan, in 65/65R, and we're doing an octagonal barrel side lock ejector Kiplauf, which I'm.
Oh my God!
Wow, that's going to be beautiful.
It's going to be that is a very exciting project for me. And it's been something I've been wanting to do for years. The UK gun trade generally don't build single shot rifles. The problem is it's quite an people think, it should only be about half the price because it's only got one barrel. But the fact is, the actioning time, apart from one lock, is virtually identical to a double gun. And you haven't got another barrel on the side, but you still got all the quarter ribs, everything else that goes into it. And yes, a double rifle will cost more to build, but you're not far off. Do you know what I mean? You're sort of halfway house. But yeah, that's an exciting project. And that's the sort of thing that I would like to looking forward to do.
What caliber did you say that was?
6.5 by 65R.
Right. Is that's a rimmed cartridge then?
Yeah. It's a 6.5 caliber. Does about 3,300 feet per second. With a sort of 127 grain, 130 grain factory round. So it's kicking.
It's moving some, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
And was the choice of going for a rimmed cartridge so that they could get an ejector, or was it?
No, you can do it with a rip. You can build them off. You can have something called a clip inside your extractors, which will basically it's like a tiny little tooth that flips up and it will grip it and then eject out. But as a rough rule of thumb, for anything with an ejector, you want a rim cartridge. It's what it's all about. It's far more reliable. That's why shotguns have got rim cartridges. They're rimmed. If they were rimless, you'd be having piles of ejector problems. You have enough ejector problems with a rimmed cartridge.
Yeah. That's why all the sort of dangerous game calibers are all big sort of rimmed.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually going back to single shot rifles, and dangerous game, you think like, I don't know if you heard of the Barkerson falling block, falling block rifles. They were used regularly for dangerous game. There's loads of 450s and all kinds of large calibers like that used for dangerous game. So if those guys back then when really taking really putting themselves in front of some in front of some dangerous game and are just taking on with a single shot, they had a reasonable amount of confidence it's going to work and eject.
So the final question from Mr. Batterbury is, what was the first rifle you made?
Here or the first rifle I ever made.
First rifle you ever made?
First rifle I made was a 375.
Very nice.
So that was the first rifle. It was actually a pair of rifles for a customer. It was a 300 and a 375. Wow. Those are the first two I ever made.
Very nice.
Very smart.
For an American customer years ago.
Gosh, very good. So we got a question here, and he won't mind me reading his name out. James Turner from Embryo Angling, who has asked, does working in the trade change your enjoyment of shooting?
I think it does, to be honest, to a certain degree. You have to keep finding different ways of keeping you enthusiastic about it. If for you guys, or for a lot of people listening to this, that's your escape and release, and your bit of time out. Either to go stalking, or even a nice day's driven shooting with some friends. It's something different to your day-to-day regime, where when you're in it every day, you go through highs and lows with it, and enthusiasm drives for it, and you always trying to find different ways of keeping your interest up. For me, I enjoy my stalking. It's a bit of peace and quiet, a bit of solace to myself. I would love to do some more walked up days with, such as, like shooting grouse with small gauges, 28 bores and things like that. Those are the sort of things that mentally keep me stimulated within it, and looking for those little adventures. And obviously, one of the things I thoroughly enjoy, leading up before COVID was I was fortunate enough to go and do quite a bit of hunting abroad, and it's not the hunting as much, but I enjoyed the experience of seeing other hunting cultures across Europe, and the way they deal with game, and just the hospitality, and I think that keeps you very much alive.
Yeah. What sort of stuff are you doing? Is it mainly wild boar you're doing abroad, or bit of sort of other stuff?
Yeah, primarily. Yeah. Over the recent years, it was primarily driven boar. We used to go to Serbia. I've been to Croatia. I've been to quite a few countries in Europe. I thoroughly enjoyed Spain. And seeing that, the landscape's different. It's just, from being in Eastern Europe where it's cold, damp, and a little bit grey. But again, that's also set, Hungary in the winter time, or I've been to Lapshot and Latvia a number of times, and that in the snow was amazing experiences. Shooting in minus 27 one day, which is just immense.
My God.
And again, that to me was just a wonderful experience I'll always cherish. But that's the fun bit with the rifle. I think it can take you to all these cool places that you would never ever dream of going. It's just a matter of organising it, and it is harder since COVID. Definitely harder. Heathrow's a nightmare for flying out of now, so you're having to look at different ways. And one of the downfalls of coming out of Europe is you've lost the European firearms pass, so you have you just have to do a little bit of more pre-planning, but it's still all possible.
And sorry to keep asking my own questions, but what rifle are you taking with you when you're going on the board?
Yeah, generally abroad, I would advise most people to take something like a minimum of 270 generally, and to 30 cals. Most guys I know taking 300s, 30-06s, because you've got such a variety of good game, especially with wild boar, and they're really tricky. Eastern European boar are different to sort of more Central France boar and body weight. You get pigs, in excess of 200 kilos over there, and you're shooting it's very tricky. You're shooting such a variety of body weights to get the right caliber. Theoretically, yes, you could shoot the smaller ones with a 243 if you wanted to. But when they've been chased around a little bit, the adrenaline's up. So one minute you got like an 40 to 80 kilo pig, and then next minute you can have the thing the size of a small family car coming through, which is like near 200 kilos. And think, Christ, have we got enough rifle here for this?
200 kilos is a big pig.
Oh yeah, I've seen some big sows over the years, some absolute monsters. And theoretically, those who shoot ball, they'll be going, oh no, they're shooting sows. But some areas in Europe and Eastern Europe, they really just it's a case of we've got numbers, we just got to knock them back. And you get in certain areas and they'll shoot sows as well. It's generally not the correct thing to do, shoot big sows. But even big, I've shot quite a few boar in excess of 165 kilos over the years. And they're big pigs.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So I think this might be one of the final questions that came in, and I think might be from a friend of yours, from the fact that she refers to you as Darcy.
Yeah.
So this is from someone called Louise, and it says, how long does it take Darcy to make a gun?
Too long.
Too long. So in all seriousness, that kitlauf you said is going to take you 18 to 24 months. If you were making, would that be different if it was a bolt action rifle, for example?
Massively, yeah. The kitlauf's going to take a while because we got effectively having to. There's no pattern to build it from.
Yeah.
So you're having to develop it as you're building it. You're having to sort of go through the stages of development and build at the same time. So it'll take a huge amount longer, especially the first one. Now once we've got the first one done, we can use we start to you scan it, start to get CNC. You start to use CNC machines to do some of the donkey work later on, if we want to make a production line of it. But I'll be honest, we're not geared out as a factory to run production lines. It's UK gun making. There's so few guys in the trade. You can't. There's a number. Yes, we can do stuff in house, but there's a number of outworkers, but you can't do any vast volume with it. You can build a few nice guns a year safely, but volume not. But it's more the thing is it's just to keep your hand in with the gun making aspect and show that you can still do it. And it's nice to have like I said, a few commissions a year is perfect, absolutely perfect. But
roughly speaking, if someone walked in tomorrow and said, build me a bolt action, let's go 308 because it's the best caliber out there, bolt action 308, how long would that sort of take? Is that a year? Is that 18 months? Is that
probably about 7 months, 8 months.
Okay, that's quite quick.
Yeah, it's depending where I am with stuff, to be honest. In time frame of building, it's about the sort of time frame it takes. But I might not be able to start it for 3 months. So it varies a little bit, and also it varies dramatically on engraving. We just keep the simple engraving profile or patterns. It's loads quicker. If you've got some guy that wants a shed load of engraving, it could be engravers for 3-4 months. If it wanted to be, and that's where certain manufacturing of best quality rifles get jammed up, and that's why the delays happen, because you've got one engraver working on one rifle for nearly 6-7 months. So it's a huge amount of that hundreds of thousands of pounds go into engraving sometimes.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So Rupert, I'm conscious we're approaching the hour mark, and I know you've got children to get home, and well, you may be trying to avoid them actually, but I'm conscious you've probably got children you need to get home to see. But the final segment to our podcast is Bobby's Bits, which is named after Harry's brother, who was an even bigger kit fiend than Harry and I. So whilst on his gap year between school and uni, he lived at home, so had a lot of disposable cash. He was in that kind of brilliant point in life, loved his stalking, didn't pay any rent, so he was out buying kit all the time. So we sort of named this segment after him, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we ask all our guests, so is there a piece of kit you are hankering after, or what's the next thing you're going to buy, or is there something on your kind of wish list that you'll get there eventually?
The next piece of kit I need at the moment is I've just got to buy a 36 barrel for my Blazer, which I'm gonna get one of those next. It's nothing too dramatic. It's not the most exciting because I've got the stock. I've only just got my license back, like I said. So at the moment, that's the next thing I need. Hankering for is to build myself a kit plow for one day. That is the hankering. part of Bobby's bits for me.
What's stopping you from doing it, Rupert?
Everybody else, at the end of the day, when you're running your own business, your time is precious, and at the end of the day, it's one of those sort of things that you get to say, well, I'd love to do something for myself, and I've started projects for myself over the years, and I end up selling them halfway through because somebody else wants it. So that's often the way it goes. You become a little bit less precious when you have a gun shop, like of kit. I keep a few things. I don't change because I just can't be bothered to change. I'm just keep it simple. But you become a little bit less precious of it. I'm surrounded by it all the time.
Yeah. So as someone that is surrounded by it all the time, if you had to say the best bit of kit that sort of, I don't know, has come into the shop in the last 6 to 12 months, and you think this is either really good or this is going to sell like hotcakes, is there something that jumps out? Or
I actually think one of the nicest things I picked up in the last 12 months is probably the K5 as a rifle. Sorry to say that, people, but I come around rifles. There's a lot of rifles out there, and they're all functional. They all have loads of good qualities. They're accurate. But actually, to get me personally excited as a production rifle that's affordable and actually, with some nice shape, nice feel, I've got an understanding. And those who enjoy their stalking, to me, it's we do them with some really nice, cool cases, and I get these custom cases built now as well for them. And I tell you what, as a nice treat to yourself, that to me is probably the most exciting thing in recent months. Tikkas, great rifles, but they're functional, practical tools. And people are very fond of them. But and that sort of rifle, but truly to get excited, I still think it's something with a nice piece of wood, and there's something. I think most of us have a little bit of a pull towards that.
Yeah.
Just the practical part of your head takes over.
Definitely. Yeah. Tom is looking very smug. So
you've
made him happy.
You've made my day, Rupert, and I promise to all of the listeners that this isn't the reason we actually asked Rupert to come on. Wasn't just to stroke my own ego and reaffirm that kit louse are the best. But Rupert, thank you so much for spending so much time talking to us. Conscious of your time is very precious, so we'll call it a day there. And
you won't have to edit too much about the estate agent aspect. I hope that wasn't too much of an issue.
No, exactly. And if anyone does want to sell a house, let Harry and I know. We've no idea what we're doing, but I'm sure we could probably figure it out. So yeah, and probably quite good rates as well. So thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you on the next one. And a massive thank you to Rupert, and thank you for being such a good sport, Rupert.
No problems at all. Great to speak to you guys.
And we'll catch you on the next one, guys.
Thanks. All the best. Cheers. Bye.
Bye now.